So, all right, hello once again to all of you out there, Cotton Companions, loyal listeners out there in points unknown throughout the Cotton Belt. From California to the Carolinas, we want to thank you for tuning in. We're back with this, the 25th episode. We are a quarter century, not a quarter century. We're a quarter of the way to 100, for whatever that's worth.
We're a lot farther than we were when we started.
There you go. Here on the world-famous Cotton Companion podcast. As y'all know, my name is Beck Barnes. I'm the publisher and editor here at Cotton Grower Magazine, and I am here with my partner in crime, Cotton Grower senior editor Jim Steadman. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Beck.
We are here in our Memphis office. It's Thursday, December 1. I'm going to ask y'all to bear with me in particular today because I have my early December cough and everything else going on, so throat's a little dry, so just hang in there if I start having a cough fit. I would say Jim won't be doing that, but I did hear him coughing a second ago. So
anything is possible this time of year.
That's right. It's just,
and I'm sure our listeners would sympathize too.
Right. Well, especially in the in the Mississippi Delta where I'm from, it's it's just that time of year, the cruddy time of year as far as sickness comes on. Anyhow, for y'all out there in the belt, what you got going on, we know most of y'all are put away and done for the year. I believe that there's still some harvesting going on in the high plains. We're not doing a crop report as part of
We will do a harvest report here in just a couple minutes.
We'll do a harvest report. Okay, then I don't want to step on Jim's toes. I will say I was having breakfast this morning with Barry Evans from out there in Crest, Texas, and he was telling me that the crop up there on the northern high plains and farther north is just tremendous this year. So congrats to all y'all for a good harvest. I hope that everybody out there has a big harvest year. And from what I've heard around the belt, there's a lot of that going on this year. A lot of people had a really good crop, so that's good. We love hearing that. Big ups to all of you who are out there perfecting the trade and making these big crops. I will raise my glass to you if I wind up with a glass this weekend to toast. I will do it, I promise. So for today, though, we do have a good one lined up for y'all with this episode. We're going to cover a lot of bases today. We're talking about the global crop outlook because we know how worldly you boys and girls are out there, and I mean that sincerely because so many of you who I run into out there in the real world are wanting to know what's going on in China and India and in various spots around the world. So Jim here has prepared a little report, I believe, based off the Rabobank Global Crop Outlook, so that'll be nice to have. We're also going to discuss a recent report that I just saw come across the wire this week about Bayer making plans with what it's going to do with its cottonseed brands as part of the new Bayer-Monsanto merger. So we'll check in with the latest news there. And we're also going to talk about this ongoing reaction to, really, I would say the bulk of our program today, going to be about EPA's recent approval of Monsanto's XtendiMax with Vapor Grip herbicide. That's a dicamba-based herbicide. And we're going to talk about some of the fallout that had, no pun intended, truly, that has happened since that news broke last week. Jim was just bringing me up to speed on the various reactions that have come about, especially here in the Mid-South, to the EPA's approval of that specific herbicide. And on a very related note, Jim went out there this week and grabbed a great interview with Mr. Anthony Mills. He is the Weed Management Technology Development Rep at Monsanto for the Lower Mid-South. My Monsanto guys, I love y'all. These titles y'all got, well, they're rather long, but I respect that. We're good with it. Jim interviewed Anthony, who was kind of the perfect guy to talk to about some of these reactions that have happened to EPA's approval of this herbicide. And so you won't want to miss that interview. We'll bring it to you a little later on in this episode. So you hang around with us. You don't want to miss any of that good cotton content we have for you. For now, we're going to take a quick break. We want you to hang around, and we will be right back.
Cotton Grower Magazine has the honor of saluting exceptional sacrifice and contribution to the cotton industry through our annual Cotton Grower Cotton Achievement Award. Since 1970, Cotton Grower has handed out this distinguished honor to one individual who demonstrates tireless dedication to the cotton industry through involvement, innovation, and leadership in those issues that have a large impact on U.S. cotton as a whole. Achievement Award winners are chosen after extensive research and thoughtful input from around the industry. Cotton Grower offers sincere gratitude to Case IH and to Delta Pine for sponsoring the Cotton Grower Cotton Achievement Award. In joining the effort to recognize and honor industry leaders, these companies demonstrate their devotion to the cotton industry and their desire to see growers succeed.
Well, welcome back to the Cotton Companion. As Beck said, we're going to take a look at a couple of news items from the industry that have popped up here over the last couple of weeks. And as usual, as we always seem to do, we're going to start with the USDA reports, the most recent one, and this one will be the one as of November 27th. At this point, the only report we're getting on cotton is cotton harvested percentages. So as of last weekend, November 27th, we were looking at 77% of the cotton crop across the cotton belt has been harvested. That's a 10% jump in the past week. That means there's some really good, been some good weather and some good conditions for folks to get out and get the cotton out of the fields. As Beck mentioned, most of the Mid-South is finished or nearly finished. Same thing in the Southeast. There's still some work to do out there, but we're still not in the high 90 percentiles on that. The biggest bulk of the activity and the biggest percentage jumps for the week came from Texas, which is no surprise. Texas is now at 62% done, which means all of that work that's going on in the high plains that Beck mentioned is still moving quickly. Also had a good 15% jump in Kansas, which again is no surprise. Same basic geography at this point. A couple single-digit percentage jumps in, over in the Carolinas, who are trying to catch up on some things. Oklahoma and California, this is pretty much their normal harvest cycle also. So 77% of the crop is at the gin or through the gin at this point. That sounds like a good number, but when you look at the 5-year average, we're still running right now about 7% behind. So we'll see how things work out here over the next couple of weeks as the pickers and the strippers finish the work that they're currently doing.
Yeah, it seems so. It just seems so counterintuitive to me that the farther north you go, the later they are getting the crop out. And I actually mentioned that to Barry this morning, and he said, "Well, yeah, the spring comes later there. They can't plant." And it's kind of a duh moment for me, like, oh yeah.
Well, and to be sure though, a lot of the dryland growers up in that area don't actually apply defoliants to the crop. They wait for first frost.
Oh, really?
To knock the leaves off. So, and it's been a late frost for a lot of those folks. So, harvest was delayed in some areas simply because of cropping decisions.
That's true, but you are a true font of information, by the way, Steadman. Appreciate that.
My brain is full of useless information, as many people have pointed out many times.
Right.
And I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do to shake it out at this point. It is what it is. Beck also mentioned we took a look at the Rabobank global, let's see, what do they call this? The Global Outlook 2017 report this week. And I'm just going to hit the high points on this because it's far too detailed to go into in any depth whatsoever. But basically what they are saying is their record high stock levels are set to keep worldwide food prices relatively low during 2017, but yet, and even as inflation starts rising in many developed economies. And these are just some of the things they're looking at. There are 3 key points they looked at in this report. One, the high global stock levels are expected to keep food prices low, with the wild card, and they say that in parentheses, of China continuing to potentially sell from huge reserves. Obviously, that could have some impact. The Trump presidency, according to Rabobank, brings some currency uncertainty, which could translate into volatile food prices, while elections in Europe add further unpredictability. So again, we're looking at it from a global perspective. And the third point, changing global demographics are going to continue to influence demand for meat, dairy, and animal feed. The report looked at the prospects for 13 crucial food and agricultural commodities. And in this, of course, it highlights the role of China in potentially creating further uncertainty in the market. They have huge stocks sitting there of many key commodities. Estimates suggesting 60% of global cotton supplies, over half of the world's corn supplies, 40% of wheat, 21% of soybeans. Their comments, if China decides to begin selling off some of these reserves, much like they are doing with cotton, it could lead to depressed global prices for commodities in some of these areas. Stefan Vogel, who is Rabobank's head of agri-commodity markets, said in this report, after 3 years of declining prices and extreme weather wrecking crops in many important agricultural regions, 2017 looks set to bring some much-needed stability to food prices. Nevertheless, record global stock levels mean prices are likely to remain stubbornly low. That's good news for consumers, but not necessarily good news for world's farmers at this point. They're predicting that volatility in the global currency markets is going to have an impact on agricultural commodity prices. And again, step back and think about it. The euro is likely to depreciate as a result of elections in France, Holland, and Germany. We've yet to see what the impact is going to be in Great Britain, where the pound has declined since the Brexit vote back in June. And obviously, the jury is still out, and we're still waiting to see what's going to happen after the results of the U.S. presidential election as President-elect Trump puts his team in place, and what impact that may have on the market or the economy. Just one last comment on this from Mr. Vogel. While farmers, consumers, and commodity traders will all be keeping an eye on potentially volatile currency prices during 2017, overall the fundamentals are remaining strong. Global population is growing, prosperity is rising, and that's fueling the switch to more expensive meat and dairy-rich diets. In Rabobank's view, global food prices should in the main hold up, even if farmers are braced for little or no commodity price growth during the year. Now, just looking at they also have a little chart looking at the 17 key commodity groups that they looked at, and we're just going to take a quick look at what they say about cotton. To be honest with you, they are not expecting much change in the cotton price during 2017, although they do see it shifting more to the bullish side slightly. So right now our cotton prices are holding, now we're on the March contract, and I think our prices are holding in the low 70s at this point. So what they are saying is they expect cotton to strengthen slightly as a third consecutive global deficit evolves. Key risk factors to keep an eye on: a strengthening La Nina, Chinese destocking or selling of reserves, and as always, competition for man-made fibers. So
I want to make sure I heard that right. They're projecting a 2017 global stock deficit, meaning at the end of 17 we will have fewer cotton in the world.
Yeah, the world stock.
Okay.
Ending stocks number.
You got to talk slow when you're talking about that stuff to this Ole Miss boy, Jim, as you're aware. Okay, couple more things. As Beck mentioned, the news came out this week through Reuters. First of all, we've talked about mergers and acquisitions on this podcast off and on for the past year, and quite honestly, the level of activity or the news from all of the large potential mergers has been relatively slow for the last month or so. And as things move more into the examination and regulatory phases and things like that. So it was really kind of interesting to see a little report out of Reuters this week quoting Liam Condon, who heads up Bayer's crop science division, publicly saying that Bayer expects to sell some of their cotton and canola seed businesses to help allay or offset any antitrust concerns about its acquisition of Monsanto. I don't know that any of this comes as a surprise. I think most people who looked at the potential on this merger realized something was going to have to move from one side or the other. As Condon was saying, he was quoted as saying, in North America, the combined market share in cotton is indeed quite high when you look at Bayer and Monsanto together.
We anticipate that parts of this business may have to be divested, with another strong market position emerging in canola. So the article concludes, several antitrust experts have said regulators would likely demand the sale of some soybean, cotton, and canola seed assets. So we'll see how this is going to work out. This is a deal that's not going to move quickly at this point. I think they were still looking at the end of next year as the finalization point on this. We'll see. There are still some roadblocks that have to be overcome, both in Europe and in the U.S.
Yeah, that's what, the story that broke this week. I feel like the first time we talked about this merger on this podcast, we acknowledged more likely than not they're going to have to divest.
Something's going to have to move.
Some of these one or two of these cotton seed brands.
Right.
And so this story that broke this week was really the first confirmation of that you had from an official Bayer source who said, yeah, we're probably going to do, so it's not earth-shattering news, but it is confirmation of what we suspected.
Right. And we're certainly not going to sit here and speculate which brands will be impacted by this. And finally, as Beck set up in the intro, there's been an awful lot of activity in the market, particularly here in the Mid-South and certainly other parts of the country, but the Mid-South in particular, since it seems to be where most of the action is at this point, regarding the registration of XtendiMax with Vapor Grip, the new dicamba, low volatility dicamba herbicide from Monsanto that was approved by EPA back on November 9th. As soon as that registration came through, it didn't take very long before the Arkansas Plant Board set up a public hearing for November 21st. And once the doors opened at that meeting, basically was 160 people crammed into the meeting room and 2 overflow rooms. They had 20 different people testify, with input about what they should or shouldn't do. It was a 3-hour public meeting, and as a result of that meeting, the Arkansas Plant Board has voted to push measures to the state's governor that would ban some forms of the herbicide and limit how and when newer dicamba formulations can be used in the state. So again, to just a quick backup, XtendiMax was approved on November 9th. It is a DGA dicamba herbicide with a additive called Vapor Grip that helps reduce the volatility of the dicamba. So in all of the testimony and all of the work and things like that, there were 4 proposals that were sent to the governor and legislature for consideration, because that's the only way they can actually come into law in the state. The first one was to ban dicamba herbicides of the DMA salt and acid formulations, in other words, Banville, which is the original dicamba product, except on pastures, but only if susceptible crops are at least 1 mile away in all directions.
Not pastures.
I don't want to. No, we don't want to use them on pastures. No, I'm sorry for those of you in the,
our pastures.
Please don't be out spraying your pastures at this point. That's the first proposal. The second proposal is to prohibit spraying of all dicamba composed of the DGA salt and the sodium salt from April 15th through September 15th, except on pastures or rangelands, again with a 1 mile buffer. This includes the new XtendiMax formulation from Monsanto and a similar DGA-based formula that DuPont is licensing from Monsanto. The third proposal, farmers who are planning to use BASF's Ingenia herbicide, which is a different salt of dicamba and has not yet been approved by EPA, we want to point out here, use it on Xtend cotton and soybeans, must have a 1/4 mile downwind buffer zone and a 100-foot buffer in other directions. And also the big kicker here is they're requiring anyone who uses these applied products on the Xtend and the Enlist technology, the new 2,4-D technology that's coming from Dow, that anyone who uses those products have to complete a new technology certification training program before they can go to the fields with the product. These proposals are now on the way to the Arkansas governor and will eventually be brought before a legislative committee for a final decision on it. So Arkansas has stepped up quickly to put some restrictions in place. It was probably Arkansas and the Boot Hill of Missouri, probably the two areas that had the most instances of off-target dicamba use and off-label dicamba use this year.
Well, people lodging formal complaints with
Right.
with the plant board there. I mean, documented
Absolutely.
cases. So I couldn't help but chuckle. Jim was telling me a little bit about this story just a little while ago at the thought of, I think he said 160 people showing up at this plant board meeting. That's got to be some sort of record for public interest. And I can't imagine those things are normally all that well attended. But this has been a hot button issue, as Jim was just trying to say.
Definitely. So, and earlier this week, I sat in on a presentation that Dan Reynolds, who's professor of weed science at Mississippi State University, made on these two auxin herbicides, on the XtendiMax and the Enlist system. Couple of points that he made out is he made in this presentation is these products are significant because right now we're in a period of high resistance, and there has been no new herbicide mode of action introduced in over 20 years. That's, just sort of stop and think for a minute. It's been 20 years since a new mode of action came in to this market. And I was trying to think the other day exactly what that would be, and I'm not going to venture a guess without knowing for sure.
Oh, well, now you've piqued my interest. I'm sitting here going, mode of action.
I'm sure some of our listeners will let us know.
This is one of those things where it's like better to keep your mouth shut. And
Yes.
people think you silent, then open your mouth. People think you dumb. I think that was
Yeah,
saying
and I don't have to open my mouth very much for people to think that. So.
Well, I don't know. Let me just say, 20 years ago would be 1996, so that would be Roundup, right? I mean, that would
No, Roundup was long before then.
a new mode of action in T2. He was talking about cotton.
A new herbicide mode of action. Now, I don't know if it was in cotton or not. It may be in another crop. There have been different.
He means just in agriculture in
agriculture in general. So,
okay, all right, that makes sense.
So then you got to expand your your search all the way up into the wheat and grain markets and things like that.
Yeah, which I know zero about, to be
Right.
sure. So never mind. Then I will just be quiet from here on out.
But to continue. As Dan said, there are two task forces at work in Mississippi right now examining how best to integrate these technologies into the state's row crop agriculture. There's one task force that was authorized by the Commissioner of Agriculture and a second task force that's commissioned by the Delta Council, a group who carries great influence in that central Mississippi true Delta area. And then Dan went into a little detail about the training program that Mississippi State is currently developing to meet mandatory training requirements for growers, because in Mississippi, growers will also be required to complete a training program before using these products. And apparently they've really jumped ahead of the curve on this in putting starting to put these programs in place. He says right now there are 6 different training modules. All of them are going to be available online, so it will be, like an extended learning or a remote learning situation for growers. All you need is a computer, log in. You can use your licensing number, your registration number for application registration number to get into the systems, and there's going to be an exam at the end of each module. The first 4 modules you're saying should be ready by January 1st, and those first 4 modules are going to focus on an introduction to herbicide-resistant weeds, an introduction to the auxin herbicides. The next one's going to talk about off-target movement from drift and volatility, And the fourth one we'll talk about off-target movement from equipment, and more particularly and more importantly, how to properly clean out the equipment to make sure you're not carrying dicamba or 2,4-D into other fields. The other two modules that will take just a tad longer to put together, one will review the Enlist Duo label once that product is approved. Excuse me, there's my dry throat. And the other will review the XtendiMax with Vapor Grip label, and that's something they're working on at this point. These programs are going to be available. Mississippi State's going to make the program available to other companies or other organizations. I believe Arkansas has already reached out to Mississippi to see if they could use this program to meet their training requirements. And in addition to the mandatory training, Mississippi is likely to put a 10-mile-per-hour wind speed cap on applications using XtendiMax and Enlist Duo, and I believe that requirement is also being put in place in Arkansas at this point, which is less than the EPA label.
A little more restrictive than
more restrictive than EPA label.
That EPA label, yeah.
I think at this point, when you look at what the states are doing, they're really just going slow and cautious with these products, and that's probably rightfully so. Let's go into an introductory year with these situations and these requirements in place, and see what happens. The EPA label for XtendiMax is only a 5-year label, which gives them the flexibility to make adjustments as they need to, as we get more experience and more action out in the field. So it's been interesting watching this. I don't think it's a story that's not going to go away at this point. And like Beck said, it was one of the reasons that we were able to get in touch with Anthony Bills with Monsanto and spend a few minutes with him to have him explain more details about the XtendiMax product and the label and some of the things that they're looking for and other recommendations that they're going to put in place as part of their weed control system for growers. So please stay tuned for that 9-minute interview.
There you go. Yeah, obviously a lot of interest in this registration that just came down the pipe. I guess it was 2 weeks ago now from EPA. Was it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks?
November 9th, so 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago now. So, again, very good work by Jim to wrangle this interview with our guy, Anthony Mills. Where did I have that long? Anthony Mills. This is the Weed Management Technology Development Rep at Monsanto for the Lower Mid-South. So, hang with us. We'll be right back, and Jim will have that interview with Anthony on the flip side of this break.
Welcome back to the Cotton Companion. As we've discussed, the EPA approved the XtendiMax herbicide with Vapor Grip technology, Monsanto's product for the in-crop use with their Roundup Ready Xtend crop systems in soybeans and cotton. It's something obviously many growers have been waiting for. And here visiting with us today is Monsanto Weed Management Technology Development Representative Anthony Mills. Anthony works the Lower Mid-South area for Monsanto, and we're going to visit with him just a little bit about the technology and what growers can expect as we go into 2017. Anthony, thanks for joining us today.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here. Glad to talk about the technology with you.
All right. First of all, Anthony, the approval came through, federal label came through a couple weeks ago. What's this approval mean for farmers as we move into 2017?
Yeah, that's right. The approval came through the first part of November, and this is an exciting time. Not just for Monsanto, but for the growers here in the Lower Mid-South. We now have a new tool that farmers can use to help control this resistant palmer pigweed problem that we have down here. Once we get state approvals, that is.
Okay. And what's the status right now on state approvals? I'm assuming they're all looking at them pretty much right now.
Right. They're There are several states that have approved it already, but there's several more states that are looking at the label, reviewing the label, having meetings with us. Some states will probably put some additional restrictions as far as how the product can be used. We're going through that process right now.
Okay. Explain the product to me. What does the Vapor Grip technology bring to this product?
XtendiMax with Vapor Grip is a low volatile dicamba formulation. The Vapor Grip additive in the formulation really is a step change in volatility reduction. Will be a fantastic product for growers to use in crop in both cotton and soybeans.
Okay. From a grower perspective, again, what sort of requirements or how can they best use this product as they go into next year? What does the label allow them to do at this point?
Well, the first thing that you want to do if you're considering growing either Bogart 2 Xtend Flex cotton or Rounder Pretty 2 Xtend soybeans is you want to make sure you use a labeled dicamba product, which right now XtendiMax with Vapor Grip is the only labeled dicamba product for use in crop. After that, you want to use a fully loaded residual program in combination with XtendiMax. That's really, really important. You want to start clean. You want to use a good burn down program to kill all your winter vegetation. You want to use an upfront pre-emerge residual, and then you also want to use residual products in season. As you know, Palmer pigweed is a problem that just keeps coming all season long, and those residual products are important.
Okay.
As far as the label goes, the XtendiMax with Vapor Grip label has several restrictions that are there to make sure the grower has a good experience with the technology. These restrictions need to be followed. Restrictions such as no ammonium sulfate added to the tank mixture. That's important. No aerial application. Specific nozzle sizes. The Turbo T-Jet injection nozzles, an 04 size, operated at a maximum of 63 pounds of pressure. Right now, that's the only nozzle on the label. But that's important because that nozzle produces an ultra-coarse droplet size, and that nozzle is less prone to drift than other nozzles might be. There's also restrictions on buffers on the label, buffer requirements, buffers towards sensitive areas as well as susceptible crops. And one thing I want to point out that's very important, if the wind is blowing towards a susceptible crop such as non-dicamba soybeans, it's very important that grower understand that he shouldn't spray that field that day. He needs to wait until the wind changes direction.
This is going to give them a little bit wider window of application, right? Because you're coming back over the top of the product, so they've got a little bit of time in there to wait if they need to, in order to be able to come back.
Well, yeah, the product has a wide window of application from the standpoint of the crop. What is allowed on the label from a crop growth and development standpoint. For soybeans, you can spray up to the R1 stage, and in cotton, you can spray clear up to 7 days prior to harvest, which is a very wide window.
Sure.
But from a Palmer pigweed standpoint, it's very important to target your applications early on very small Palmer pigweeds.
Right.
Once those Palmer pigweeds exceed 4 inches in size, they become very, very difficult to control.
Okay. What about wind speed?
Yeah, there is restrictions on the label for wind speed. The label allows applications from 3 to 15 miles per hour, but we really want to see those applications made between 3 and 10 miles per hour. Certain states may actually restrict the application to 10 miles per hour.
So as we're going into next year, really it's almost a learning process as we're able to bring this product out to the market. I know Monsanto's had an extensive educational program in place for the last several years about the XtendiMax system. What about continuing education and other programs that Monsanto and maybe other organizations are going to put in place for next year?
Well, as you know, we've been working with our government agencies trying to get this technology on the market now for several years. And so we've done extensive training already because we anticipated this label several years ago. But with that said, we now have a label in front of us. We now know specifics about the label, so we do need to train on those specifics. Monsanto has a robust training plan in place to get out in the field and talk with all of our grower customers and retail customers about the label. We're also enlisting our university partners, my weed science colleagues at the universities. They'll be helping us do this training as well. We're confident that we can get the messages out there and train on this label so that growers can have a good experience.
It's an important tool, and you want to make sure everybody understands the right way to use this so that everybody has a good experience with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Stewardship of this technology and of the XtendiMax with Vapor Grip product is of utmost importance. I mean, if we don't have a good experience this first year, that's not going to be good for Monsanto. It's not going to be good for the farmers.
Right. I know there's a lot of interest. There has been, obviously, for several years in the technology, and you've obviously worked closely with a lot of the university specialists on this. You've been to meetings where growers have been present and maybe have seen some plots on this. What's the general impression or the general indication or anticipation out there in the market for this product right now?
This technology has been anticipated now for several years, and the grower interest is extremely high. Like you said, we've been working with our university partners for many years. Their interest is extremely high. Everyone thinks we need a new tool to help control Palmer pigweed. Everyone is excited about having the opportunity now to use this technology.
Okay. Great. Anthony, I appreciate your time. It's going to be interesting to watch and see how things work as we move into the 2017 crop season. And thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate it. One more thing I'd like to add. We have a website, a good place to go for reference material. It's www.roundupreadyextend.com. You can go there to get additional information.
Sounds great. Anthony, thank you. We will be, we'll obviously be watching, and we'll stay in touch as we move into next year. We'll be right back with more of the Cotton Companion right after this.
Well, all right. That is going to just about do it for the 25th installment of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to thank you truly for joining us. If you like what you're hearing, we want to encourage you to please tell your farmer buddies about us. Tell them about this Cotton Companion podcast. We know that some of y'all are doing that. We watch as our numbers have gone up. Our analytics, we can look at through the wonders of digital media. We can look at how many people are actually tuning in, and we know that many more of you are. I know that it's you're transitioning out of work season for many of you, and out of the cab of the tractor and into the deer stand and the duck blind. You know, if you're bored sitting in that deer stand, if it's a slow year, if you're getting skunked out there, put your earbuds in, listen to the Cotton Companion. We will keep you entertained during those maybe slower times in the deer stand. Believe me, I've had a few. So
we'll try not to make you laugh out loud.
There you go. Yeah. We truly, we want to sincerely thank you for joining us, though. There's going to be 3 ways you can tell your buddies to get to us. You are likely using one of these 3 ways if you're listening to us right now. So those 3 ways, number 1, simply go to cottongrower.com, www.cottongrower.com. Search for the Cotton Companion in the search bar there. It'll take you to a landing page where each of our 25 episodes are housed. The second way, another good way, just subscribe to our iTunes channel. If you have an iPhone, if you're familiar with the iTunes app on your smartphone, It's pretty simple. You simply click on that thing, search for the Cotton Companion in the search bar there, and you can subscribe to our channel. And that way, every time we produce a new episode, it automatically downloads onto your phone there. If you do that, please subscribe, leave us a rating, let us know what you think of our pod. We love to have audience feedback on each of our media platforms, but especially this podcast. This is a new venture for us, so we won't know how well we're doing if you don't tell us, or how poorly we're doing if you don't tell us. We're big boys. We can take it. So the third and final way to find the Cotton Companion podcast, to be sure you receive each installment of this thing, is to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-newsletter. Jim here works hard to pack that thing with all of the important, relevant news of the day, and they hit your email inbox like clockwork each Tuesday morning. Occasionally, during this time of year, you will find them in your email inbox on Thursdays as well. And you can do that. You can subscribe to the Cotton Grower e-newsletter at our website, www.cottongrower.com. You simply scroll to the bottom of the page, and you can find a link there that says subscribe. Click on that thing, and it'll walk you through this process to subscribe for our e-newsletter. It's pretty easy peasy. Also, we want to make sure you're following us on social media. We're very active on Twitter and Facebook. You can find us on the former on Twitter at Cotton Grower Mag, pretty simple. And on Facebook, you can find us by just searching for Cotton Grower Magazine in the Facebook search bar. We hope you are enjoying our latest issue, which is at this point the November issue. December should be hitting your mailbox at any moment now, and that's a good one. We know you'll like it, so look for that in the coming week. This podcast is produced by Mr. Mark Antonelli, who works at the mothership Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. As always, my name is Beck Barnes, and I will be back with you in 2 weeks for the next episode of the Cotton Companion. For now, on behalf of my own Cotton Companion, Mr. Jim Steadman, we want to wish you and your farming operation all the best.